Hey fellow babies, Merry Christmas and welcome back to Pachter Factor on SIFTD.net. Hope you are enjoying this holiday with your family, and I hope that you got so much money for Christmas that you can help us on Patreon as a patron. If you can't do that, please try to remember when you're getting all your Amazon bills from Christmas gifts to link your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account so that we can get that little juice that Amazon's willing to pay us because you're linked to Twitch. And if you can't do either of those and you're watching on YouTube, please follow me on Twitter. That'll be your Christmas present to me at Michael Pachter. All right.
Wait, we got something special. Santa visited us and left something
nice.
for you.
Should I open my Christmas present or should I wait?
That is your Christmas present. You can open it right now.
You know, I like this, by the way. And I got to figure out how to keep this and not ruin it.
Wrapped that.
I know. I got to figure out how to keep this because my wife will love these things. It's a tube, so that means we like it. Any scotch that comes in a tube is good scotch. I'm going to tell you that now.
Is that true?
Yeah, they don't put bottles in tubes unless it's like Lagavulin or Oban or better. They come in boxes if they're just cheesy.
You can't get it open?
I can. I don't. I was trying not to rip it, but I guess I'll just
go for it.
All right. I got to keep this for my wife because this is cute. Probably forget my dogs.
I can't believe they're not at the door right now, Alan.
Oh, I don't know what this is. Oh, Glenn Grant. Is it Glenn Grant? Which I actually like. This is heavily. Oh, Glenn Farkles. Oh, this is really good. Oh shoot, Shane. All right, guys. Seriously, we need a lot of Patreon patrons to pay for one bottle of scotch. Okay, so I can honestly tell you. Do you know that I've only had this once?
21.
Zach Carlson bought me a bottle. Remember Zach Carlson?
Yeah. You said you really liked 17, and I just figured I'd just take it up a notch.
For the money, the 17 is the best scotch on the planet for the money, but this is really great. Thank you so much. I will open this tonight. Merry Christmas. Thank you. That's really kind. That's really kind.
Thank you for everything you do.
It's a pleasure. All right, so staying in the Christmas mood, from SIFTD, our first question is from Peter. What are your plans for the holidays? Are there any games you're planning on diving into? You know, Peter, you're giving me way too much credit. I'm like seriously stuck on God of War. Like that's how far behind I am on games, and I'm digging it, but I'm like probably halfway through. So I am so far behind. So I haven't started Red Dead Redemption yet, which I want to play too. I have Red Dead Redemption 1 up there as my commemorative gift. I really want to play Star Wars, but I'm probably not getting to it till summer because I'm that far behind. I am dying to play Outer Worlds because it's totally my kind of game.
It is.
And I'm not doing that at Christmas either. So I'll probably finish God of War because I just like it, and I think it's kind of a fun game, and I like the whole story and dialogue. And if I really had to bet, the next one I'll probably play is Outer Worlds. I saw Fergus last night. That guy's been making games for 28 years. I believe this is the first game he's ever made that was nominated for Game of the Year, and a lot of people that I respect told me it was their Game of the Year. So I'm pretty psyched about playing that. Sorry, little runny nose. I think I got all teared up about the Glenn Farkles 21. So probably not diving into anything. I am going to Hawaii. By the time this airs, I will be back. But I'm going to Hawaii tomorrow for a week, and we're coming back right before Christmas. And Christmas, we normally do like a big Christmas with lots of friends and stuff. This year, my wife's little brother and his two adult kids, they're like in their 20s, and his wife are coming over, and her little brother is a fireman, federal firefighter, but he's like the designated cook in the firehouse. So he's gonna broil lobster and steaks for us. And that's what we're doing for Christmas. I've got somebody coming over to do all the cooking. And so we haven't spent Christmas with them in probably 10 years, so that'll be fun. But nothing else, nothing special. Hawaii before Christmas, nothing again. Then I get into full-blown like CES earnings season, whatever. All right, next question this week from Patreon from Tarma. Hey, Pac, This is obviously an unusual situation. With its massive Kickstarter funding, does Shenmue 3 actually have to make any money at retail? It seems to be selling poorly, but are sales required to create a sequel to a crowdfunded game? I mean, the right answer is that in order to make a profit, your total revenue has to exceed your total cost. And so it's possible that the Kickstarter funding covered all the development costs. Retail probably covers the marketing expense, and probably they wouldn't have produced it if they didn't recoup at least the development cost. So my guess is they're profitable, but again, I don't think it makes much difference. I mean, they're not making hundreds of millions of dollars. Guys who make video games kind of set out to make a very healthy profit, 20, 30, 40%. This game, highly unlikely. And again, the Kickstarter funding, every person got a copy of the game. I get that it's essentially digital. The math on making a game now is typically you spend about 20% of revenue on R&D, on development, and you spend about 15 to 20% on marketing, and then you spend about 20% to the retailer. So the balance is the profit, and the problem is that R&D isn't a scalable thing. So you can't make a game for $10 if you only sell $100 worth or $50 worth. Your table stakes to make a game are 50, 60, 70 million bucks. So pretty much you budget, if you're going to spend 50 million bucks on R&D, you're going to have to do about 200 million or 300 million in sales to break even. And a $60 game, that's probably 4 or 5 million units. Break even on the game used to be $1 million, then it jumped to 3 when we got to PS3, then it jumped to 6 or 7 when we got to PS4. So any game that sells less than 5, 6 million units doesn't typically make money unless it's a low budget game. And that's why you see games, these smaller indie games that can make money, selling 500,000 units. And they can, because it's a 6-person team, and they put in a couple of years, but it only costs maybe 500,000 bucks to make, or $1 million bucks to make a game. They can make money at 10 million, 15 million bucks. But if you have a studio with 200 people and you're working on it for 3-4 years, no way can they make any money, selling a small amount. So bottom line is that games like Shenmue don't get made because they assess the market and say, this thing's only going to sell 1 million units. We're never going to get paid back on the R&D investment. Hence a Kickstarter campaign. And I think that's a dumb way to fund a game. I mean, I get it when you're Brian Fargo within Exile starting up a studio, or Tim Schafer with Double Fine, starting up. But, ultimately both those guys sold to Microsoft because they got tired of begging for money and they needed Microsoft to fund their game development. And I totally get that. I mean, life's too short to have to constantly be going like we are to Patreon and begging people to be patrons. It's too hard. It's easier, so if Microsoft would buy SIFTD.net, I think we'd be sellers. Our next question from Patreon from Michael Dragon. Xbox Series X near fully unveiled, and PS5's final details are likely coming at E3 2020. When do you predict the next iteration of the Switch will be unveiled? Will 2020 be the last boom year for Switch? Happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you, and happy holidays to you. I think actually you'll probably get Sony PlayStation 5 before E3. If I had to bet, they'll either do GDC or they'll do an event, which is how they've done the last couple. So I would expect something. GDC is when I learned about the PS4. I think it was GDC, whatever the year that was, 12 or 13, whatever year, 13. And I bet they do it again. So, I'm not skipping GDC. Switch, I don't know that there is a next iteration of Switch. Like, Switch has come full circle. And, if you remember, Nintendo, although they've had consoles, obviously NES and SNES and N64, they kind of flopped with GameCube, then they caught lightning in a bottle with Wii, then they flopped with Wii U. Switch, I think, is actually going back to the handheld. And I think, Mr. Iwata would have had you believe the Switch was both handheld and console. I think it's more Nintendo acknowledging that their console business just wasn't working, and going back to handheld. And it's great, they call it Switch, so you can play both. But I think of it as primarily a handheld that you can also play as a console. And I think that's how they roll from now on. So, will we get a more powerful Switch? Sure. The good thing for Nintendo is that their hardware has been underpowered for the last couple of generations. The N64 was not, but the GameCube was probably on par. The Wii was underpowered, the Wii U was underpowered, and the Switch is underpowered. Fortunately for them, the scaling up of power isn't that important anymore. So if you can run at 1080p and high frame rate, that's good enough for most people. And the Switch already does that, and I think that the next Switch will run at 4K and decent frame rate. And I don't think it matters if it's got, half the petaflops or petabytes or teraflops or terabytes of the other guys. So, the truth is, I think that Nintendo gets better and better and better with each succeeding generation. Now, I think streaming hurts the console market in general. And so Nintendo's advantage there is that their software doesn't show up anywhere else. So if they want to force you to continue to buy consoles, they will keep thriving in the console business. I personally think they benefit immensely if they embrace streaming full on, but that's just not their culture right now. And the baby steps that it will take to embrace streaming start with something like Apple Arcade and take 1,200 or however many there are Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, DS games that they've made over the last 25 years and throw those onto Apple Arcade and tell people, $5, $10 a month, you can play all the Nintendo games you want on your phone. That would work, and they would thrive. And that would build interest in, the first 15 Pokemon games, which means you got to buy the new one on the Switch. So I think that's the smartest way to perpetuate their hardware presence, is give away the old stuff at low prices and get tens of millions of people to subscribe, and I think they would. And so that's my bias. I think the Switch is just started with Switch Lite. I think that the $199 price point is pretty good. $179 is better, $149 is even better. And I think that by 2021, they'll be to $149. And so if they have a 1080p handheld with current generation quality games, and they continue to release games at the cadence they've been releasing them, that thing is going to sell like crazy at $149. So I think that in fact you will see Switch sales probably in the 20 million unit range in 2020 and again in 2021. So I don't think that 2020 is the last boom year. Our last question this week from SIFTD from Suicide King. Do you think the rumored dual SKU launch of Xbox Series X will be successful? It's never been done before, so some analysts are saying it will be too confusing for consumers. I think that the Microsoft is emboldened by the success of the iPhone, and the iPhone's been doing that for the last couple of generations. They've had a less expensive SKU, and I'm not even sure what the Apple iPhone XR was. My daughter has one, and interestingly, we bought 4 iPhones the same day. My wife and I and one daughter got the iPhone X a year ago, and the other daughter said she wanted the XR, and I asked her why, and she said, I like the way the camera works better, and I don't even know why. I mean, she showed it to me. We were in the Apple store. She showed me side by side, and the auto set, like when you just open up the camera and look through the screen, the image was smaller on the iPhone X and bigger on the R, and I don't know why, but I was like, can't you just zoom? And yeah, but I don't want to. Okay, so that's a reason to buy one. And she also really liked the case color. She got this rust colored case, and she's like, I just really like the case and rust. So Apple obviously can figure out how to offer different things to different people at different price points and get them to buy it. And I think Microsoft is going to try to emulate that success. And the answer to your question is, if they're priced at $500 and $400 Someone says, well, $500 is for 4K and I don't have a 4K TV. $400 is good enough for me. You know, that's fine. So yes, I think confusing for consumers, maybe. People understand if they're priced differently. You know, they understand that there's different features. And I don't know what the features are. I mean, go and look at an iPhone. Like I think the standard now is 128 gig flash, but you can get 256. I don't even know why you need it, but you can. The old ones were 32 scaling up to 128. It was literally 32, 64, 128, and it's like, I don't know why I bought what I bought, but you know, because you can. So I think there's plenty of consumer products. Think about a PC. I mean, like just to buy a PC, there's like a jillion. You could think 13, 15, 17-inch laptop. Like, people aren't confused. They understand 17 is more than 15. Anyway, so no, I don't think it'll be too confusing. We'll see. Shane, thank you. Get everybody in your life who matters to you a bottle of scotch, and if they don't drink and you do, then you'll end up enjoying it with them. I hope you guys have a great holiday. I think Hanukkah and Christmas are all happening at the same time. Festivus is around here. So have a wonderful holiday. Thanks for joining us on Pachter Factor. If you're a Patreon patron, thank you for your patronage. If you are not, please try to remember to link your Prime account to your Twitch account, and we'll get paid a little bit every month. The instructions are in the show description. Please, as a Christmas present to me, follow me on Twitter at Michael Pachter, follow Shane at Dinfire, and follow SIFTD at SIFTD Games. Have a wonderful holiday. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you next time.